In the last lecture, we added the navigation items for the toolbar only right now. So it's time to also add the navigation for mobile devices. For these, the menu button here should show a side drawer, so some side menu which slides in. For that, I'll add a new component in the navigation folder, the Sidedrawer component in a Sidedrawer folder. Now, the Sidedrawer here will consist of two components, you could say. The Sidedrawer itself and then the toggle button, which right now is simply handled here with a placeholder. The menu button here, that should be a button which opens the Sidedrawer in the end, and that can therefore go into its own component, since we theoretically might want to reuse such a toggle button. Also, we will need a backdrop for the Sidedrawer, but thankfully we already got one, so we'll reuse this component. Let's work on the Sidedrawer first, and let's always show it, then let's add the toggle button and so on. So let's get there step by step. The Sidedrawer component is a normal functional component where we get some props and return something. That something will not be the JSX code immediately, but a real function body will use here, because before I return JSX in there, I want to do something here. I basically want to conditionally attach different CSS classes to make sure we play some animation when the drawer is shown. So add an open class which kind of slides it in and a close class which kind of slides it out. You'll see how to implement this in a second. Of course, let's also import React so that our JSX code can get compiled. And let's then export the Sidedrawer function as the file default. Now, before we add any conditional classes, let's set up the Sidedrawer. And here I will simply use a div like this. And in that div here, I want to have my logo and my navigation items. So I'll import both. I'll import logo from the logo folder, and there the logo.js file. And I'll import navigation items from the navigation items folder, and there the navigation items.js file. So here you can already see how we're reusing components. And then I'll add logo as a self-closing component here and wrap navigation items into a nav element. And yes, you could also therefore outsource nav into navigation items. Just make sure to also adjust the styling there then, because right now I'm styling nav in toolbar. You would have to move that into navigation items, but that would absolutely be possible. So here I'll include navigation items as a self-closing element for now in the Sidedrawer. And now, of course, the Sidedrawer needs some styling too. So for that, I'll create a new CSS file next to the Sidedrawer.js file, the Sidedrawer CSS file. In there, I'll add a Sidedrawer class. And the Sidedrawer will only be visible on small device screens. I will take care that you can only open it there. So let's set the position to fixed then, because it should always be on the page. Even if we scroll, it should feel like a static element. I want to set the width to, let's say, 200 pixels or maybe 280 pixels. And the max width should be 70%, so that even on super narrow devices, it doesn't go over the edges. The height has to be 100% to take the full screen height. And the left position should be 0 and the top position should be 0, so that it really sits on the full screen. I'll then give it a set index of 200, deliberately having a higher number than the backdrop, of course, where we used 100, because the Sidedrawer should be above the backdrop, otherwise it would be hard to use it. I'll then want to give it a background color of white, so that it stands out and that we can clearly see all the content of the Sidedrawer. And I'll assign some padding, let's say 32 pixels from top to bottom and 16 pixels left to right. And you can, of course, also use percentual values here if you prefer to do that. I'll give it some box sizing to adjust the size to the padding. And now important, I'll add a transition property to react to changes of the transform property and animate them over 300 milliseconds with the ease out timing function. This will be important for opening and closing the Sidedrawer. Next, I'll add a media query here to determine what should happen on bigger devices. If our device width exceeds 500 pixels, then the Sidedrawer CSS class should actually have a display of none, so it's just not visible. So we can never see the Sidedrawer on bigger devices. Now for testing, we will have to switch into mobile device mode in the browser therefore. I'll also add two new CSS classes, open and close. And these will be attached conditionally, and they are responsible for playing an animation. For open, I'll set the transform property to translate x0. This will basically shift the Sidedrawer into the position I defined up here. And for close, I'll set transform to translate x minus 100%. This will shift it to the left. And since we constantly switch between these classes, transform will be adjusted and hence it will play it with a transition. This is the Sidedrawer class. Let's now go into the Sidedrawer and let's import the classes there. So let's import classes from the Sidedrawer CSS file and let's add this to the div. Class name here should be classes Sidedrawer with a capital S. So now this Sidedrawer component is configured and should look good. Now of course we want to use it. And that brings up one important question. Where should this Sidedrawer component be used at? In the app.js file? In the toolbar file? Neither of the two, of course. We got our layout, and in the layout we have the toolbar. It's here where we also should have the Sidedrawer, because it's part of our core layout in my opinion. So I'll import the Sidedrawer here from, and now I need to go into the navigation folder, to the Sidedrawer folder, and to the Sidedrawer.js file. And now simply import or add this here. Add the Sidedrawer here in this layout component. With that, if we go back to the application and we click on this mobile device preview icon here in the Chrome DevTools, alternatively you can just shrink your screen size, from a certain point on you should see the Sidedrawer. And it should look horrible because the logo is way too big and the navigation items of course look bad. That makes sense because we have adjusted neither of the two to look good on mobile devices. So let's take care about this next before we then add the backdrop and a working toggle button.